Hey everyone, welcome back to Mission 1820 and this week's episode of Have You Ever Wondered? If you're just joining us, we're in a series called Books of the Bible, and we've been giving introductions into each book of the Bible in just 5 minutes or less. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get to this week's book. If you have been following us, we are currently moving through the 12 books of the minor prophets. This week, we're finding ourselves in the book of Nahum. This is the 34th book of the Bible, and it's also the 7th of the 12 minor prophet books that we're going through in the Old Testament. Now, Nahum is a short prophetic book of the Old Testament, and what it is doing is it's foretelling the destruction of the nation of Assyria and their city capital of Nineveh. Now, if you've been with us and you go back to the book of Jonah, this is in contrast to Jonah, who 150 years earlier actually preached repentance to Nineveh, which they did. Nahum instead, this time, is telling the people of Judah not despair, because God has already pronounced judgment and that the Assyrians are actually going to be getting what they deserve because, well, they have become even worse than before when Jonah was there at Nineveh. Now, the author of the book we know is Nahum. However, there's very little that's actually known about him other than his hometown of Elkosh. This is in the nation of Israel. Now, this city of Elkosh has never really been physically located, but there is one theory that stands. It's that the city was later named Capernaum, which literally means the village of Nahum. Now, the writing of the book can be dated with some reasonable accuracy because Nineveh fell about 612 BC, which means the book was probably written shortly after this time, somewhere between 663 and 612 BC. The book is a short one, as I mentioned. It's only 3 chapters, but we can break it down into 3 parts. The first part is called The Destruction of Nineveh is Decreed. This is found in chapter 1. The second part is called The Destruction of Nineveh is Described. This is in chapter 2. And then the third part is called The Destruction of Nineveh is Deserved, and this is found in chapter 3. Nahum preached during the reign of King Mansour, and if you remember in the book of 2 Kings, chapter 21, you're going to read that he was one of the most evil kings in Judah's long history. He was actually a man who needed the pain of his own experience in order to teach him the lessons of being a good king. Now, Manasseh did make the great conversion. This took place late in his reign, around 648 BC. It was literally only about 6 years before his death. That means that Nahum preached during the darkest period in Judah's history to that point. This was a time that was filled with idolatry of all kinds. This is a nation that completely turned their back on God. The Lord's willingness to send Nahum, who, by the way, his name means comfort, he sent him into a hopeless situation. Now, this is evidence of God's unrelenting and overwhelming grace. Some may wonder about the gloomy, pessimistic tone of this book. Some might even ask while reading it, how can this picture of God's wrath and judgment be reconciled with the God of grace and love that we know in the Old Testament? Well, as the sovereign, all-powerful God, God can do whatever he wants. He has the right to work his purpose in the world, which means that judgment against sin in the world is simply just a part of the work that he must do in order to remain a just and holy God. So, why is this book so important for us? The book's important because it teaches us the sure judgment of God against those who oppose his will and abuse his people. Because at the end of the day, any act of humanity is simply an act against God. And you can well trust that he will serve as the ultimate and final judge of sin. So with that, I hope that this introduction is going to get you started in the book of Nahum. So God bless and thanks for watching.